Hello, this is gonna be a little bit of a different video, and I don't even have a script for this. This was recorded on the Creator Experience server, and hence is subject to change, which is exactly why I want to talk about this. So, well, let's get into it. There's really not much, I just really want to talk about it. I think it's freaking important. For most people, you might already know that we now have a substat counter on the screen, which is fantastic. We know that our Sokaku here has 8 substats, which is cool. And we also know that we have this combat readiness, which has always worked the same way, it has always existed. However, I think when combining those two, the way of how it is combined in the game currently creates a little bit of a problem. Let's check Sokaku. Sokaku has a plan. And the way this combat readiness works is basically they recommend you to use a 4-piece hormone punk with a 2-piece polar metal and triple attack percent. If you do that, you will get an S rating here, right? So if we go here, if we just go to whatever is recommended, right? Apparently, we do build our Sokaku with a hormone punk, so that is cool, right? 4-piece hormone punk, nothing changed here, so let's put a polar metal here, because this character is not playable without. So we do exactly that, right? And now we have this. Let's quickly check drive discs. What else do they want? Oh yeah, percent attack in slot 4 and 6. So here, we do need attack main stat. Like substats don't matter, right? It's like the only thing that matters is the main stat. So their attack percent. So we can do that, right? And wow, we have a combat ready S-rated Sokaku. Insane. Please do not do that. That is horrible advice. However, I think it creates a little bit of a problem, especially when we look at some other characters. This is a 38 sub Pyrus who is perfectly balanced around playing with Nicole. Their signature gives 20% crit rate. So we are at 83% crit rate, plus 15% from Nicole. So we're at 98% crit rate, which is great. So one more substat and we would be at 100%. Unfortunately, I couldn't do that, but anyway, right? We have an insane amount of attack because I plan on playing Pyrus with Dialin and Nicole, so we don't have an attack buffer, which means that we run triple attack. You can see that those substats are freaking insane. Yes, I could maybe improve this to get to 40 subs. Cool. However, unfortunately, we only have an A, and that is what I see. I see active modifier count, 38 substats, insanely good stats, perfectly balanced for the team I want to play in, but we only have an A. So why not check? Drive discs only B, look at that. My drive discs are so bad, apparently. Check the plan. We want the Sky Ablaze with Woodpecker Electro, crit rate, ether damage bonus, and percent attack. So we are gonna do that. We go here, we put, Branch and Blade. Nobody needs that. We need a Woodpecker. If we don't have Woodpecker with attack main stat, we are cooked. So we just use any random attack main stat here. We also want ether damage bonus. The substats don't matter, right? So let's take that one. Here we want a crit rate main stat, because otherwise that is not a thing, right? So crit rate, no substats that we need at all. Perfect. And there we go. We have now 10 substats less. We already overcap on crit rate. We are at a 105% in combat. But I guess now we are combat ready. I understand that they have the colors here as well for the active modifier count, right? So depending on whether or not you're an AP character, this one will be a bit lower before it turns yellow, and I understand that. But I think the way of how this is displayed creates a bit of a problem. It already was, to be fair. The recommendations in this game are not great. They are not great. Your Nekomata, apparently you want to build her on Fanged Metal. Please do not do that. Right, we have had a look at Sokaku. Ben Bigger. How do you build Ben Bigger? I think Rakaruk, the one person who actually knows something about this character, I guess he is wrong. You want a 4-piece Soul Rock and like 3%. Please do not do that. Oh my god. Don't do that. Don't build Ben like this. And there are a lot of really questionable recommendations in the game. They recommend you Freedom Blues. But that also means that for a lot of people who maybe are not that well versed, which is okay, right? It is totally fine if you just want to click here, check the plan, and build whatever they recommend. But then at least try to make this look a little bit better, right? You have the more plans, which you can use if you want to. If this even loads, I think it doesn't on the beta, so we ignore that. But point being, this looks incredibly misleading. If you can have a 40 sub Pyrus, and unfortunately it gives you only an A combat readiness, because that is what you see, right? Yes, you can click that, but you don't get an S here, right? We remember that. If we go back here, our substats don't matter. We can have the most dogshit substats. What is the worst? Here, level 0. Does level 0 even work? I don't know. Let's test this. Level 0. Okay, that doesn't work. You actually have to level them. If you... Okay, fair enough. You have to level them, right? So let's give them something even worse. So, here. 16, but I am combat ready. I think this can be very misleading. I want Hoyo to... This is... you know, it's a wish. It's a wish of mine, and I wish they would do that because I think this is misleading. I really would like them to change this to take your substats into account. Because right now, these two are not the same, but they are displayed as if they were belonging to each other. And while it is great to have this active modifier count, which is, there's another issue to that, which we come back to later, right? But, yeah, please adjust this. Please take substats into account and allow me to not build exactly this, because most of the time this is non-ideal. You don't necessarily want Woodpecker Electro unless your substats are pretty bad. You also don't necessarily want ether damage bonus. Yes, ether damage bonus can be fine when you play with Nicole, for example. If you play with Nicole Sunna, but if you play with Dial Nicole, you want attack percent here, because you already get a lot of damage bonus. But pen ratio is worse because of a lot of Death Shred, right? So we want attack percent here. We might not want crit rate, depends a little bit, right? But crit rate is probably ideal, but anyway. There are some layouts, like with, you know, Nicole Dialin, where you don't have an attack buffer, where you want, like, triple attack. And I think going strictly by exactly this one single plan is just not great. I think there should be more options than just this. Especially since they recommend you, like, level 55, which is, actually, is that the same case for anomaly characters? There's the same case for anomaly characters. I know you can adjust it. I know you can adjust it to outstanding. But please keep in mind, anomaly damage depends on the character level. Please don't do that. I think they need to change this. So, this unfortunately looks horrible. So, we are gonna change this back. Mainly because I want to show you something. So we are going back to our layout here. Right, look at that. Oh my god, it is so good. Unfortunately, I don't actually have a really good one here. I don't have a grid rate made stat, but that is okay. We are just going with whatever we have right now. Oh my god, look at that. Sure, that will do. 38, right? Fantastic. This was my layout, which I took before. I think this is not true. I feel like the substat modifier count is also a little bit misleading, which I understand how they programmed it. I think it's okay, but I think it could be improved. So if we, for example, take... I think I have another disk somewhere. Let's do this one. Let's take this one as a good example, right? This disk has one roll that went into flat attack, right? It went into flat attack. That are 38 attack, which we have here. So, this does not change our active modifier count. However, if we look at the stats, the base attack is 1637, right? So what we can do is we can pull up our calculator. 1637 times 0.03, which is 3%, right? 49. So, that means that one single attack roll here will give us 49 flat attack. That is basically how this works. That also means that the difference between flat attack and attack percent is not that big. And arguably, it depends a lot on the character, of course, right? There are a lot of ifs surrounding this. But this should not count as missed rolls. That is questionable. There are some layouts that you can do. Actually, let me check if I have one somewhere. I'm quite sure I have that somewhere. Pen ratio is another, well, flat pen is another stat that we might want to address. Actually, do I not have that? What the... Surely I have that somewhere, right? Surely I have that somewhere. Okay, that is horrible. That is also horrible. Oh my god. I don't have that anywhere. Okay, never mind. I cannot show it to you because apparently my discs are horrible and I don't have a good example to show this on. But I mean, the point still stands, right? There was one disc which I had somewhere, I don't remember which set it was, which was like, oh, I know where. Velena. It was this one. No. It was this one. These... Okay, right? So, we do the same thing here. We go into the anomaly. 1585, right? So, we pull up our calculator. 1800... sorry, 1585 times 0.03. That is 47.5. So, that means that this disc, this here, this number above the attack percent roll means 47.55. This down here is a little bit less than double that. So, why do I not get any substats for these? These should count as like 0.4 substats or something, and at least if you get like multiple rolls into this is not a bad disc. This might be the same as saying attack percent plus 2.5 here, and then anomaly plus 1. That's approximately the same. Sure, it is worse than just rolling this into attack percent, but that doesn't mean that it is completely useless. And I feel like, especially when you look at this at the grand scheme of things, and where some people just really don't want to farm their sets into infinity, that can be a little bit discouraging. Because this is arguably not a bad disc. Like, is it the greatest disc you have ever seen? Definitely not, right? There are other things you could run, but it is not a bad disc, and you might want to use it, especially when you want to balance your attack while you run your... Okay, that's the ice damage one. I was testing something. My bad. Let's go back to Moonlight. Wind damage bonus. There we go. Look, new stat. Insane. Diluting the pool even further, but that's fine. So, you want to balance the stats, right? We want to have some attack, and because I run wind damage here, I need some more attack to make up for that, because I only have one attack buffer in the team, so I end up at around 4000 plus whatever combat attack I have. Well, combat attack percent. Point being, I don't think this is necessarily the best way to handle it. I think this is less important than the other point, right? We know that Velena wants energy regen. We know that she wants a Moonlight Lullaby. For some reason, Hoyo recommends Phaethon's Melody. Please don't do that. Please run energy regeneration 2-piece. But unless you run Anomaly Mastery in slot 6 and Phaethon's Melody, I'm pretty sure, by the way, they will change this. Again, CES, you know, subject to change until live. But if you run this, you will never get you will get an S here, despite it being massively worse than running ER. So, and I think that is a problem. So, please change this. The way this is displayed, in my opinion, is very misleading. And the other thing is, well, not as misleading, but I think it would be nice if they would also take into account flat rolls for flat attack and possibly even flat pen. There are situations where flat pen can be very, very good, especially if you play with like Suna M1 and Cordis Germina and Nicole, right? A flat pen roll can be nearly as good as one attack percent roll, a single one. So, the way that it doesn't count, I think, is a bit misleading. But, I mean, you know, I'm fine with that. Please change this. This is bad. The way of how this looks, in my opinion, is not great. So, that has been it. Please let me know your thoughts in in the comments. And I apologize for not having a script. I just really wanted to rant about this. So, thank you so much. Well, have a good day. Peace.